Students from municipal schools in Caxias do Sul, a city with a majority white population in the state of Rio Grande do Sul, Brazil, paint an image of U.S. civil rights leader Martin Luther King Jr. as they participate in a program called Qualifying Education of Ethnic-Racial Relations. Silvio Avila. To help observe the holiday, here are 6 conversations from across public media on King's most powerful words, legacy and the ongoing fight for voting and racial justice in the United States and around the world. Code Switch, The Road to the Promised Land. 50 years later 50 years ago, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was shot and killed in Memphis, Tennessee. In this episode, we have 2 stories about the aftermath of his death. The first takes us to Memphis to remember King's final days. The second brings us to Oakland, California, where King's assassination transformed the position of the Black Panther Party overnight. Listen to The Road to the Promised Land. 50 years later 1A, the mothers who raised Martin Luther King Jr., Malcolm X and James Baldwin. I decided to focus on mothers. Motherhood is so overlooked, says Anna Malaika Tubbs, author of The 3 Mothers, How the Mothers of Martin Luther King Jr., Malcolm X, and James Baldwin Shaped a Nation. Listen to the mothers who raised Martin Luther King Jr., Malcolm X and James Baldwin. Throughline, Bayard Rustin, The Man. Rustin imagined how nonviolent civil resistance could be used to dismantle segregation in the United States. He organized around the idea for years and eventually introduced it to Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. But his identity as a gay man made him a target, obscured his rightful status and made him feel forced to choose, again and again, which aspect of his identity was most important. Listen to Bayard Rustin, the man behind the March on Washington, the NPR Politics Podcast, The Docket, The Rise and Fall of the Voting Rights Act of 1965. The Voting Rights Act of 1965 was born from the civil rights movement of the 50s and 60s, but in recent years the Supreme Court has effectively